Welcome to the Explainer. Today, we are diving into 5 Psalms that really map out the human soul. We're going to go from the depths of private despair all the way to a public cry for divine justice. So here's how we'll break it down. We're going to look at this collection as a kind of thematic journey, starting with a really personal struggle for trust and then building up to this universal demand for justice. Let's start with Psalm 31. All right, so our journey kicks off right in the middle of an inner struggle. This is a raw, super honest expression of faith when things are just really, really tough. This one verse, man, it's the absolute heart of the psalm. It's this total act of trust in God, even when you're surrounded by persecution. It's such a profound surrender. In fact, these are some of the very last words Jesus spoke from the cross. It's this declaration that even when it feels like everything is lost, your life is ultimately safe in God's hands. You can really feel the desperation here. The psalmist paints this vivid picture of being boxed in by trouble. You've got slander, fear, friends leaving. But time and again, he turns back to God as the only real source of safety. He feels totally discarded, like a broken vessel, a shattered piece of pottery. And yet he still clings to this belief that God can hide him and keep him safe. So this psalm gives us a timeless model for resilience. It's not about pretending the pain isn't there. It's about anchoring your hope in something much stronger than your circumstances. And that last part isn't just a wish, it's a promise. If you place your hope in the Lord, he will actively strengthen your heart. Okay, let's move on to the next stop on our journey. Here, the focus completely shifts inward to the incredible relief and, joy that comes from repentance. Now, what I love about this is how it contrasts the two states. On one hand, you have the physical, emotional toll of unconfessed sin. The psalmist describes a literal, physical decay from the sheer weight of his silence. But then, that's completely lifted by the blessing of just confessing. And here it is, the turning point. It's all about radical honesty. The psalmist just stops hiding, stops making excuses. And you gotta notice the immediacy here. The moment the sin is brought into the light, God's mercy is right there to meet it. This really drills down on a core spiritual principle. Forgiveness isn't just some abstract idea. It has real, tangible, even physical effects. This psalm basically frames it as the only true path out of that self-inflicted suffering and back into a life that's guided and protected by God. So we've been looking inward, right, at repentance. Well, now the camera pulls way, way back. Our perspective expands dramatically outward to celebrate God as this all-powerful creator and sovereign ruler over everything. This statement is just packed with power. It highlights the effortless, absolute authority of God's creative word. Think about it. We humans, we have to toil and struggle to build anything. But here, the entire universe isn't painstakingly constructed, it's simply spoken into existence by a divine command. The psalm makes a really clear argument here. It's basically saying, look at all the stuff we trust in. Human power, military might, they're ultimately unreliable. The grand strategies of entire nations, they can be wiped out in an instant. Real security is found only in the Lord, whose eye is on those who trust in him. So why does this matter so much? Because it challenges where we place our ultimate security. Instead of putting our trust in temporary, fallible human systems, this psalm calls us to find confidence in the eternal love of the Creator, who is literally holding everything together. Next up, we get to see how praise isn't just a solo act. It becomes a shared story of deliverance, and it offers some really practical wisdom for how to live a righteous life. This verse isn't a command, it's an invitation. Taste and see. It's a call to move from just theoretical belief to actual personal experience. The psalmist is putting his own rescue from fear out there as evidence, basically saying, look, God's goodness is real. I've experienced it, and you can too. And right after that invitation, the psalm gives us this incredibly clear, actionable guide for life. And notice, these aren't just passive suggestions. They're active commands. Guard your tongue, depart from evil, and don't just sit around waiting for peace. Pursue it. So the key insight from this psalm is that true faith is integrated. It's all connected. It connects our inner gratitude for God's deliverance with our outward actions, a daily practice of integrity, praise, and actively making peace. And that brings us to our final stop, and this one is intense. Our journey concludes with a raw, powerful cry for divine justice against those who are wrongfully persecuting the innocent. The language here is straight out of spiritual warfare. The psalmist calls on God to take hold of shield and buckler, that's a smaller shield for close combat, and to stand up like a divine warrior, fighting on his behalf. It's this desperate plea for a divine champion to step in. You can really feel the core of the psalmist's pain here. It's betrayal. He describes how he mourned for his friends when they were sick, but those same people turned around and celebrated his downfall. It's this deep personal injustice that leads him to appeal to God as the only one who can see the whole truth and deliver a righteous verdict. And this psalm serves such a crucial purpose. It validates our raw, desperate cries for justice. It basically gives us permission to bring our anger and our pain to God, trusting that He is the ultimate defender whose righteousness will win out in the end, and that our current cry for help will eventually turn back into praise. So from that personal trust all the way to communal praise and that final cry for justice, these psalms really do map the full spectrum of a living faith. They remind us that our spiritual journey is meant to be complex and honest and deeply relational. Thanks for exploring it with us.